So, good morning to everyone. Romans chapter 3. Thank you for sticking with it. I know it's a bit uphill, but we're making great progress. So today, just like before, we're just going to have a bit of a warm-up practice. So take a sheet of translucent and a grid paper behind. This one, the dark one, so that you can really see it. It is, but just straighten it up from behind, just so that it's. I just want you to be able to see it, but I don't want you to have to rule any boxes. I want to see if you can fly alone now. Okay, do you all have a parallel pen of sorts with you? Do you have a red, Lucy?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And I know you don't like it, but would you mind getting a red out, Miss Kazzy? So the translucent paper, the purple pad you need. You're better to work on the pad than tearing a page off, because you get a sponge that pushes back against the nib. So I always prefer to work on the pad. Now, what are you going to look at while you're doing this?
The nice one. This one?
No, what are you going to look at when you're doing this? You're going to look at something well executed and well done. So always have, you could use that. That's not perfectly done, but that's not for this pen. In your handouts, you had a small printed thing with all the dimensions on it, like a good, robust, how it's supposed to look. Let me show you, just a minute. I'm talking gobbledygook, so you don't know what I mean. What I mean is have something good in front of you to stare at. That's well done. So let's say it was this. It's just to keep you on the straight and narrow, or this. Now, the thing I don't like about this one, there's something I don't like about each one of them, but I don't like this one because it's got serifs at the top of the M, and the sidebars are rather thick. But it's good, so you could look at that. But it's like if you were an artist and you're drawing something, and you start drawing and you don't look at the thing that you're drawing, then you're gonna draw what you think you see and not what you see. So you do need to be constantly checking back at something. So I would suggest this one to have as a point of reference. And you've got underneath your page, you've got this darker grid. It's not quite straight on the photocopy, so just straighten it up under there, just so that you're content with it. Pick up your black tool. Oh, I should close my ink. Remind me to talk about ink in a minute. I'll talk about that. So let's go through the families. Let's go through the fat and round family first. Let's start with O. Now, what I do I avoid ruling lines at all costs if I can. So I just make a dot at point 4. So you've got 4 squares in all directions. So this is going to be quite big. Oops, I missed there. That's where it is. And start off by so the first square in is sort of the starting point. So we're going to do an O, cutting that corner off, hitting that exactly in the middle, pressing hard. Now the pen starts to by itself thicken up. Oh, I didn't miss. I missed. This is why you do a warm up, because your hands are no good. So these are all supposed to be the same. My mind was very shaky. One. So do 2 or 3 O's, but try to be with pressure in the middle and then ease off when you get to the bottom. And when, oh gosh, when you reconnect, I've just got to stop talking. When you go over to the other side, even if it goes slightly outside the lines, just you're aiming for a beautiful O or Q. And 4 dots again.
I find that I'm not as accurate when it's this skinny and that big. Yeah.
Okay, let's listen to that. Yeah. No, that's fine. Caroline had the same criticism, so I'm the opposite. So I'm listening to what you're saying.
I'm getting better with the red, though. I have to say,
So,
last night.
now go up to the orange if you have one. Let's see if it's better. It might be. She's right, actually. This is a big size.
I always get them square. I'm trying too hard. Honestly, they're very gentle self-criticism.
Everybody struggles with this. Don't be ashamed to say it. It's real.
Like mine are nice and brown one side, and then I follow the square on the other side.
Go to bigger hand. Have you got an orange?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Barbara's right. I mean, it's my personal taste to go small, but I'm going to push on. You just go at your own speed at home as well. See. Oh, it's funny working this big. And then I have to make sure that my tail underneath is nice and big. So maybe we'll decide we don't like working this big, but this is just a warm up. Next is G. Remember, C and G stop a bit short of the 4 wide. And remember, when you're doing the serifs, could you just look up for a second? The curved serif at the top, slow right down into slow motion, like you action, replay, turn, back up. You go really slowly, as long as you don't lift off. I'll do it again. Rise up. Turn your pen so you're onto the point and back up. You'll remember this, Lucy, from Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
And so slide across. You can slide across and do the G stroke, or I prefer to just land on that line and kick to the left a little bit when you connect, and then draw the hat of the G with the point of the nib. It's quite tricky, G, to get it wide enough. Like this one's not quite wide enough. So dot, 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 and do it again.
Something's wrong with my pen.
Now I'm going to test you a little bit. in your kit last week, you were given some extra handouts that look like this. Got 2 heavy lines and 2 light lines. After you finished your D, take this one out and put it under your translucent paper. Looks like this.
Did I need to print it off the computer?
What's that, hon?
Was it one of the handouts on the computer? I thought I looked at.
I have extras if you don't have it.
That would be fantastic.
There you go.
Thank you.
Now, this is a little sneaky little test, because using this one, you're required to sort of mentally know how wide you're going. Do you want one too, Barbara?
Yes, please. But I did see the handouts they got sent out.
Give one to Kazi too.
Yeah, I got one. I wonder, yeah, because they were lettering forms.
For you at home, this was the one that said pen Romans on the bottom. Looks like this. If you haven't got it, just lines will do. But what I'm sneakily trying to do is to see if you remember how wide things are. So you've just done the O letters on squares. Now between these dark lines, so that's between here and here. So you could go back to the red pen if you like, because this is slightly smaller. I will, you don't have to, but let's just see if I can do an O here without my guide. I personally find this easier, but I know the forms. See how you do with this. You might hate it or you might love it.
What I do find is the squares make me
Think.
kind of make my O's square. I kind of, for some reason.
Yeah, that's why we're graduating. It was just to get in your noodle about the corners being equal. So the smaller the corner that you cut off, the bigger the O, the rounder it is. But if you, and now you're released to working like we're working on here, now you have to think round, not square. So a big hoped half moon, and then go back into it to pick it up so you don't get any join, and go much wider than you think, and you'll end up with a fairly decent O or Q. Half moon, half moon. And the more you do, the better they'll get. But you know, when the first one I did was so shaky, just because I hadn't warmed up, and they'll just improve. And when in doubt, go back to your example and have a good stare at it. Notice, I'm just going to zoom in a minute. Notice here on the O that where the thick is, it's down here, not at the side. This is the thin part through here. So then you go back to the page and you say, okay, I'll have another go. It's thickest at the bottom, and it's thickest at the top, and then it thins down to here. And then suddenly I'm getting a really nice form because I'm thinking more freely. Slow down, rotate, back up. Good. And then make sure that that's in line. Do another one. lift off, back on, turn and back up. It's a bit distorted on camera. It's looking quite straight in front of me. That's fine. I'm very zoomed in. It's not nearly as big as it looks. Working quite small. Now I'm going to go to a bigger pen. And let's go to a green and see what happens if I go 3 of these lines deep. Let's see if I can pull that off. So same thing. That doesn't have anything in it. So this is a green tip. And so I'm going to go 3 lines deep this time, which is just about as big as the original big squares we were doing. Let's do a C. It helps you see where the thickest is. And so they should be nice and diagonal across from each other. One more time. Slow down, turn on the point, back up. Okay, now with the orange pen, if you have it, back to the 2 lines. Here's the 2 lines. See if you can get a capital A. Where's your check sheet in front of you? Thinking, oh yes, light to the left, heavy to the right. So diagonal. Your pen angle here, just show you the pen angles here. We're at 60 degrees here. So here's 60. So your pen angle is 60 degrees. And you're coming down light, turning, and picking it up here and coming down. Pressure, turning. Is it balanced? Not really. It's a bit heavy that side. Go again. It's all about self-analysis. Did I get it right or didn't get it right? And it takes a while to perfect. So now the pen is back at the steep pen angle again to get the thin line here. And a thin line here. And then a thick line across. Oh, missed. So I came down too low. I don't like practicing on this particular paper, but I just thought it would be interesting to see if you could. Pardon?
I like the dot idea rather than the squares.
Yeah. The next one is everybody's favorite challenge, the 4 squares again. I'm working now on that good, nice glidey paper, as opposed to working through the translucent So you can stay where you are, but I'm working on here because I just find it glides so much easier. If you'd like some pages out of mine to work on, if you don't have any of that, please come and get some. So with M, there's a dot inside the box and outside the box and in the middle and inside the box and outside the box. So with this one, we're up to the 60-degree pen angle. And then we're back to the 35 or so, 45, whatever. And then the thin one. And then the thick one. So if you're doing the dots, it makes a messy M. So you don't do the dots with your pen. I'm just doing that so you remember where you're going. And you know you've got a good M if those two are looking the same. I didn't get as nice a point at the top as I would like, but I just was being careless. The slower you go, the better it's going to be, really. Okay, again with the steep pen angle. I'd like to do the N again. Three squares, down a little, over straight, down a little. So it's 4 down and 3 across for an N. Now mine's got a bit of a wow in it on screen, but it's actually quite straight on the. Maybe I'll move it.
Well, is it intentional or is it just really good to have that point of the come up below the line?
It technically shouldn't be, but so I did that just to tidy it.
Yeah,
Don't be too hard on yourself if you don't quite make things. You know what you're aiming for, but it just takes a lot of practice to get there. So while we're at these up and downs, when Betty teaches the serifs, I told you this before, but I'm going to say it again just because it might help you. When she teaches serifs, she'll do the plain stroke and she'll do this kind of line. So her serifs are a little more lively, let's say. That's not formal Romans, but when she's doing a fun R, let's say, she'll do that, and she can do that with her R, and it looks amazing. But pure Romans, the top is actually very straight. So if you want to cheat and just do the straight, you could draw straight like that and just tickle in the serif. It's whatever works for you. If Dennis Brown was teaching this, he'd make you turn your pen so that you get it perfect. And then he'd yell at you when you didn't, which is fine, but it doesn't necessarily. I think Paul nearly was going to deck him when he was having a go at her. But anyway. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. Okay, so any more diagonals? Oh yes, X and V. So here's our 4x4. So with V, it's 3 wide, not 4. And we need a dot in the middle of 3, so that's 1.5 right there. So our pen angle is wider. And you'll remember we've got the little, we've got that little slot on the pen, always on the top, because our pen is going to flow better. So we are at about 30 degrees when we're on a thick stroke, between 30 and 40. But you're going to get control of this pen, but you're going to be rolling it like this so that you get the right thickness. I'm looking before I start. Oh yes, if I'm doing N, I see that I need to get thin and thin and thick. And if you want to, you can leave this one out, but you certainly want, but see how dainty they are. Now the temptation might be with this one here to get a bit too long with your cross stroke. If you decide to go, straight like this and then add the serif in that fashion, make sure you don't make them too long. That's what I sort of always do, that slide in and slide out thing to sort of curtail it a bit. But it's easy to get them too heavy. So if you would rather stop and just do it with the point, then you'll get a really dainty one. Diagonal, 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 M, N, V, that's where we were, V. So here we are at 3 wide. Down heavy to the point. And you can almost flick uphill as you lift off so that you get a point at the bottom. And look where you're going is the clue. If you don't look where you're going, it'll get all shaky. Take your eyes off the pen. Now with X, we decided that 2.5 was better than 3, because that way, doing the second stroke first, which is a thin stroke, and the first stroke is, it always dissects exactly in the middle if you go 2.5. I don't know why. And 2.5 down for the Y, the cup of the martini, the point of the martini glass is thick stroke just below the line. This is 3 wide. And then pick it up on the point there and down and rock onto the foot. And draw in the serif very lightly with the corner of the pen. Is that working for you? Three wide, 4 deep. So at the 2.5 point at the top of Z, slide up to the top, across, and up, and pressure down, looking where you're going so you end there. If you want, you can draw in the serif here, or you can just leave it the way you did it. But if you go back to your example, which I'm showing you now, the top is very thin and the bottom is very thin. But we might forget and do it a bit too thick, but that's okay. while you're learning. So let's go to the too wide now. Too wide for deep, if you know what I mean. So this is the one that is a bit challenging. You sort of need to know where the middle, you sort of need to know where the middle of your letter is. So if this is my box with my 4 in, I need, when I'm doing B, for example, need to know where that middle is. So first of all, I'll do the spinal. Now I'm going to do a little D short of the line and stop. Then we pick it up here and go out and almost beyond the second box and slide up and across and get a really nice serif in the corner there. And you might have to touch it up. I'll do it again. Slide in, down, out, small d, stop, bigger D.
You're off the page.
Oh, sorry. I'll do it again. Slide in, down, stop, and all the way out. So the lower belly is a B, and you've got D sitting on top of D. That top one was a little big, but just touching your pen there, just to curve that corner at the bottom of the serif will make it very, very nice. It's very distorted. The same with R. This is our Romans letter. Stop, across, and a nice diagonal, and then turn at the very end. Avoid doing this with the tail. It's as straight as you can get it before you hit the curve. And then just drawing in your serif. Very dainty, don't overdo it. Now the last one of this set is P. And if you lay your pen back on here, you'll get a tidy top. But keep going with this one and you'll end up below the line and off before you get to the spine. There is a gap between that P and the spine, and that's deliberate. Do it again, slide in, pressure, no pressure on the serif. Keep going until you lift off. Same again with the straight spine. Remember, very straight, very straight. I'm at the bottom of the page, sorry.
Move it towards you and we'll move the camera. It's
Okay.
easier to move the camera
Okay,
so that you're comfortable rather
all right.
than you pushing,
Sorry.
pushing your book away.
All right. So here we go then. Maybe I'll go in one. It's a bit more exposing that. So lay the pen on back here. You're going along at a very steep pen angle. Turn and back up. Same again. All the way out to the line. Turn. This time we're going to go back up and then back. And this one we'll slide up to the bottom, to the end. Watch this bit, down and back to get that nice foot. And then just touch that corner in the E just to get nice rounded serif. That's quite a nice letter. That's the first good letter I've done today. And same for F. over, turn slowly. And here's my alternate F tail, which you may or may not like. I turn it, I push hard, and I lift off. It's a bit more modern. It can be a nice spear. You could do the same with the E as well. But to be truly Roman, you would have the two-prong version. Now it's easy to get this too long. See how that is too long? You just want it to be dainty like this one. Don't overdo your serifs. If you're going to, the word understated is what comes to mind really with serifs, is that have them there, but the smaller and more subtle they are, the better they're going to look. So let's do the letter I, which is a slide in, down and out. If it's not curving in the serif, just touch it. The same with J, down 3, turn left. I don't think we've got any lefties in this group, but this is a bit challenging. Romans is a bit challenging for lefties. Another 2 wide is the letter K, my straight spine. Very important to do this second stroke very light. Whoops, I was a bit too low with that one. If you make that a heavy stroke, you spoil it. It has to be contrasted with light and heavy. Do it again. The next one basically is half of the E, really. Just exactly like we did the bottom of the E, with a nice serif in the corner. This is really important with L, to make that serif as rounded as you can. Uh-oh, here comes everybody's favorite. No good? Why is it no good? That is bigger than that. I need to turn my S sooner. Here is where I turn straight. Here is where I turn. Very shallow curve top and bottom, and that's much more balanced. And then I can slowly turn my serif at the end, if it's any good. But S takes a bit of doing. Nice shallow bottom. So the only one that we haven't done is a 3 wide. So this is the cheats way of doing T. Slide in and slide out. Center stroke down. And a serif at the bottom. And it looks quite nice. But 3 across and then turn. And adding the serif. That's a true Trajan T. In the font and graphic arts industry, Romans is considered to be what they call a titling alphabet. It lends itself to titles of things. You'll see it at the beginning of movies and books and posters. But if you decide, now that we've gone through the entire alphabet and you want to do a word, you could give some thought to doing a really big initial letter. But the rest of the word could be, Romans this size. So why don't we do that now, just as a bit of a breather, because you probably need to take a breath and relax your shoulders because you're trying so hard. Try doing a short word with maybe a big letter in front, and decide how big you want to go. I'm going to go with 6. Now, Kazi prefers to work with the bigger pen. You might, at this stage, you might want to go to a new page. You're going to do a word and just see how you do with your preferred pen size. We're going to switch to dip pens in a minute. Okay. Keep practicing at home. I'm going to just pause a minute here while I go around and have a look at people's work. Help them a bit. What do I push?
Oh, don't push anything, it's okay.
Okay.
You don't wanna pull it. Yes.
I'm pleased you're doing well with a very difficult hand.
Is E the only one that comes in at an angle on the bottom, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's better to have it as straight as you can get it for traditional Romans. Once you start fooling around and doing your own capitals, then you're going to be happier with it. I think it's time to take out our new friend, the split nib.
Oh, okay.
So if you need some, come and get them. They are $4.50. And I'm sorry, I don't have change. So if you can't do it, you can pay me next time. But I want you to have a nib. I'm so glad these arrived in time. I got 16 of them.
And it looks like you can get different scrolls, right? With different
Yes,
weights?
the different weight, but I choose to do 30 because it's a bit bolder. The 40 is beautiful, but it's whisper thin,
Oh,
and
okay.
the tines,
Oh,
they ruin so quickly. Well, these take quite a bit of punishment. So you want 2 for you?
no, one for me and one for Chris.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you. And that's my money.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I put my money down.
Thank you very much. Oh, you want 2?
I put 450 there.
Oh, you want
Just
one?
Yeah, want a spare one in case I.
You want? And don't be surprised if these are a little bit I don't like the look of that one. Sometimes you get a dud, you know. That's why I always check them. Now, what you're going to do with that new nib now is you're going to lick it up the middle. And I mean lick. It's just a little bit of saliva, your own saliva on both sides will just get off the gum Arabic that's on there that will not allow the ink to stick to it. It's just how they do it for storage. Here we are, Kaz. So I find with these nibs, it takes a few strokes to get them going. So I do a bunch of exercises. Now, can we just have a talk about ink for a minute? What we're looking for with the Romans when we're using this pen are some really dainty serifs. And you're going to get a better result with a Sumi ink because they are very good at giving shade, which is the dark stroke, and hairline, which is the light stroke. So a Sumi ink, you'll get a better result. I have 2 here. I've got a nice red Sumi and a black Sumi. Sumi is acid. It's made with a form of soot. And so if you are a little bit inattentive and leave your Sumi ink on your nib and walk away, when you come back, it could be wrecked because it's acid. And it's the same with your pointed pens. So lovely results, but you know, if in doubt, you can always use our old friend Eternal. It's a great all-purpose ink, and it's a little bit friendlier, but as I said last week, Gemma Black keeps a water pot on her desk, and she just throws her nibs in maybe half an inch of water while she's working. So she ends up with about 6 pens in a pot. And that way her pens stay soft and nice, and then she just wipes them with a cloth and maybe even dips them in a bit of gum Arabic. But this nib is worth looking after because that I would say I get through maybe, and I'm using it all the time. I probably get through one every 2 months. So it is not a forever nib like maybe your C2 has gone on forever. But so today I'm going to use Sumi ink just because I get better results. Actually, this Sumi ink might be a mix. Lorraine Douglas just taught us to mix Sumi with Eternal, and then you get a better property. So that's what I've got here is I've got a dash of Sumi and Eternal together. So are we ready for doing some? Now let's just see how good you are. Let's just see if we can, using this nice graph paper. Are you working on graph paper now? You got the nice glidey one? Let's do a word and see how you do. Based on the 4x4 size, let's see if you can envision the letter without the dots. See how well you can think of it. Down to the bottom, turn, and look at the serifs you get with this pen nib. Absolutely amazing. And the point at the top of the letter just comes alive. Slow down, stop, turn onto one time, and look at that serif. It's just amazing. It's not me, it's the pen. Dot between, just to get the spacing right. Just a 3-letter word is all right. No 4-letter words allowed in this class. Except when you spill the ink. It makes such a difference to me using this pen. I just love it. For those of you at home, oh, did we press record? For those of you at home, I have these nibs. If you want one, please get in touch with me because it will make a difference to your Romans. I know we've got every kind of capability in this class. One person came up to me at the show the other day and said, I got through 15 minutes of the first session. And that's all she wanted to get through, and that's fine. And I'll tell you why it's good. Kazi's gone to a lot of trouble. When we go home from our lesson and we're tired, Kazi goes home and she edits for an hour or two so that the product that you're getting at home is all tidied up. And I'm so appreciative. And the good thing about those videos is they're going to be on our YouTube channel forever. So when you go home from this class and you think, oh, I've had it, I don't want to do this anymore, you can go back and revisit. You're going to be doing a project and you want a titling on it when it's going to be Romans. You can go back to those videos and watch them again. That's something that she's done for us. And that's a sort of a library resource. So I'm not sure if they'll be available to people that haven't paid for the class.
No, they're private. So
they're private.
Nobody else on YouTube can watch them.
Just the people that paid.
Yeah, you need to bookmark the link. Like if you make a, if you subscribe and you can make a file in YouTube to put your saved videos in, then you'll have it saved. Or you can just email me and say, send me the link again.
Okay.
For the video.
I'm not sure if you heard that at home, but Kazi's got a format for how to do that. So we'll maybe send you an email so that you know exactly how to do that, because for people that are, I'm going way too fast for them because they're at the maybe beginner level. Absolutely fine. But for them, these videos are going to be a real lifesaver because then they can go at the speed. But the people in this class are doing really well. I tell you, Chris Simpson Link sent me a piece of homework. I think she should be teaching the class. She's had 2 lessons. And the work that she sent me, and I've left it on my desk. I'm so sorry. I'll show it to you next week. What a beautiful piece of work she did. She's just got the gift. She's going to be a calligraphy teacher, I'm sure of it. Okay, keep going with your pen. Just words now. I'm asking you to do words and do the dot spacing because it's going to get a rhythm in your mind that it will help you do a title. Let's see what would be. What's nice about being able to, I'll just show you this up close. You can turn here and get this, but with this serif here, you just draw it in with the point.
Oh, you go one at a point.
Yes.
Okay.
Just anytime you're drawing in a serif, you switch to one point. I don't know if you noticed what I was doing there, but it was something that Susie Beringer taught us. If I was freehanding Romans, I count 3 squares down and I dot like this at right angles. It tells me where the second stroke goes. That's kind of a useful trick. You don't need it when we're working on this graph paper, but this Rhodia paper is just made for this nib. Pressure at the corner, lift off. So I shortchanged that O there, it's not deep enough. Oh, that's a letter we missed, was W. You might want to do a few words in a small size without serifs, just to see if you've got the forms in your head. I fully expected people to feel rather defeated with the serif, but absolutely everyone is getting it. So I'm really glad. Because I went for years trying to get someone to show me how to do a serif, and I never liked how it ended up. But with this nib, don't you think it does a good job? Turn onto one tine and back. I hope you're following along at home. There's a wonderful calligrapher came to visit us. Barbara will remember his name. I can't remember his name. Oh, Botts, Timothy Botts. He's written lots of spiritual kind of calligraphy work, but his slogan is "Keep your pen wet." I thought was good. In other words, you had to be always constantly doing something.
You have this pen at a slight angle, right? Like you're keeping that angle on this pen. It's not getting too
In which stroke?
Actually, in any of them, like when you're doing the crossbar, like from the cross, top of an R, there, it's not.
Yeah, what am I doing? Like, I have to think what I'm doing because I don't really know. So I'm always constantly rotating. So here I'm starting a letter. Oops. So I'm at the more or less 60 degrees really, but now I'm pushing, and now I'm turning the pen a little bit to get onto one time. Now I'm sort of almost at 45. Like it's not quite the same as your chisel tip pen. Yeah, it's just thinking in a different way. So I should have done this. This is a 0.
So are you tending to stress it's the thicker one that you want to come onto, the one on the right?
These should be identical tines. Are yours not identical?
No, mine aren't.
Bring. Maybe I gave you the wrong pen.
So one is slightly, you can see it better on the.
Oh, it's not in. There you go. Must have been wobbling all over the place.
I'll use that as a great excuse.
No, it's even. It was wobbling because it wasn't quite home.
Okay.
I think you'll find it works better. Nice pen holder.
Yes, this is one of heater lamps.
Can I just do a little demo, just to give you a breather for a minute? It's 20 past 11, so you should lay down your pen and breathe in for a minute. Just want to show you Roman numbers, a couple of tricks for Roman numbers. If you ever needed to do it, like you were doing a clock face or something. So just watch this for a second. Just relax and just watch. Slide in and down, so it's the spinal stroke. I'm just doing it 3 right and out. And then 2. So what you're looking for is really equidistant spaces. And then you're going to draw your serifs only on the ends. So I'm just going to rattle one off just so that you remember. But when I'm doing the strokes, I'm doing them very close together, but very equidistant. That's what makes these numbers look good. Very square, not thinking too much about it. So I drawn serif in every case across both and back, across both and back, across all and back, and then do the beginning one. And it's the same at the bottom. Cross, do the last one, do the beginning. Cross all, do the last one, do the beginning. So, you know, it very quickly looks really nice. We haven't done this, but Romans does lend itself very well to drawing on a curve. And when you're doing any calligraphy on a curve, you always have to be perpendicular, right? So just turn your work so that, let's say I was doing clock numbers on here, it would have to be at that angle. And then this one would be, how do I get perpendicular to that? It will tell me where I need to go.
Judy, push your work up a little. That's it.
Sorry. So this is a terribly drawn thing, but I'm just sort of just pointing out how you can work on a circle. You just need to make sure that you're actually perpendicular to that line wherever you are. So you've got to turn your work. But this is the lesson I wanted to teach you. So you could do all of the numbers to 10 if you like, as a bit of homework, just to see if you've got. I want to see how your pen manipulation with this nice ink and this nice nib, how you're doing with drawing in serifs. I want you to get very competent at that, and that's very shaky today, but it just looks nice. And I will give you, I think I gave you on one of the handouts these, so, but just so that we can do numbers that we know, same thing. But we're going to draw the serif in on it. Follow along, try it yourself. These are just very rounded letters. If you're doing a titling for something and it requires dates or something, you're going to need not Roman letters, you're going to need real ones. So I'll just show you. And any form of numbers will do, but you can put serifs on these if you want to, because you've got the skills now, you know what to do. It's a bit modern, but sometimes we're doing something that requires a title and numbers. We have to have something, so this is just my spin on it. The O is not an O, it's a 0, so you pull it in a little bit so that it's oval. Now, doodle, this is a doodle. This is an S curve. Look how lovely it is with this nib. If I do an echo stroke underneath it, I try to match it exactly for spacing. I'm rocking onto the nib as I get to the end. I'm rocking onto one tine just to match the weight. So here I go onto one nib. If I wanted to, I could, carry on and get pretty. But just practicing this with some uniformity of stroke is the precursor to this S curve, not lifting off, carrying on to the middle, back, making a spacing decision. How close am I going to get? I've made the decision. I'm coming back up here. I hardly have to think. I'm making a spacing decision. I hardly have to think. I'm not even thinking about where that's going. It just honestly is doing it. And then I pick this one up and I bring that up to the middle. Now try that. I'll do it again. It's the infinity sign over and over, right? middle, decision, keeping to the same spacing, pressure here, no pressure here, pressure here. I'm just trying to show you things that I think this nib does well. So if I was doing, if somebody said to us, all right, now you know Romans, I want you to develop another alphabet. And you, let's say they want you to do Art Nouveau or something like that. With a pen like this, you can do a border so easily. And then whatever your Art Nouveau letters would be, I don't know what they're like. But you can do, with Art Nouveau border, they have a thick line and a thin line. So, you know, this nib is just phenomenal for fooling around on paper. Okay, I'm going to give you some handouts now that I've put together for you. Our friend Lorraine Douglas, who's the most wonderful calligraphy teacher, Barbara will know this handout already, but this is her form of foundational. She calls it bookhand. But she's given me permission to give this to you. You may not publish it, but it's foundational, which looks like this. But her characters are sort of long and skinnier. But if you use her format, it's got a very short upstroke. But it sure looks nice with Romans. So I'm just going to give you that to have in your arsenal of this is a pull from this book here. This is the Calligrapher's Bible. It's a very good book, but this handout here is for doing, does any of you have a pointed pen with you? Because that's what I'd like to do next, just to try. And I'm pushing you fast along, but I just want you to, hello, come in and sit down. Do you want a piece of paper? I dare you to have a piece of paper and have a go. I've got ink. I've got a pen. Okay, would you mind giving these out? This and here, just before you get sidetracked, this is the foundational hand, the formal one that goes. This is what they call lowercase Romans. So I think you would find this quite easy already because you've done foundational. And so here's, you know, look at that and then compare it to Lorraine's, which is long and skinny. Doesn't it look modern? I love it. So what she's done there, look at the titling on here. She's almost got an unsealed capital there. She's got a Romans with a bit of a wiggle on it. And she's got this lettering. So that's something that you could use for a piece, your Romans that you've learned, and this I'll give you as well, which is the true Romans lowercase. And I'm also going to give you this one, which we're going to do now, which is having a go at Romans with a pointed pen.
If you're at home, I will scan that tonight and send it to you.
Yes, it'll be in your inbox so that you'll have to catch up people at home after it arrives. Would you like to do this? Okay. You're very welcome to. Okay, now try and find a pointed pen. If you don't have a pointed pen, come and borrow one. So people at home, just in case you're such a beginner, you don't know, a pointed pen is most often mounted on one of these Peter Lax holders. And the reason that it's got this funny little piece in here is to get the nib at the right pen angle. You could put this nib in a straight pen holder like Paul Antonio does. He hates these offset nibs. But for myself, I'm a by-handed person. I started life as a lefty and I was beaten into being a righty. And so it really helps me. So we have, should we have a break now? Because I know I push a bit hard and you have to sit on me for a break. So let's do that. So let's get back to it, if you don't mind. I just made a mess here. On this handout, here for Roman capitals pointed nib, if you look down to the bottom of the page, there's those numbers that we just did. So you've got them to look at. I always like you to have something. So there is absolutely nothing different about these forms from what we've been doing, but they're going to come out differently because we're using a different tool. Have you got one, Barbara? Here.
Okay, these magically appear. I don't know who that little house fairy was that took off the paper.
As you can tell, I love handouts and I like having them. And every course I take, I punch them and I keep them all together because I do go back and look at them over and over. Would you like another one, Barbara? Here you are.
So this is from the calligraphers. I'm sorry. I know. This is the calligraphers Bible. That's what these are.
The Calligrapher's Bible, yeah. We have it in the library. I think it's the best book for all of us because there's everything. Let me just show it. This is the book, the Calligrapher's Bible. 100 alphabets, and it's beautifully done. There's, the historical at the beginning, all the stuff that you already know, but it goes through absolutely every alphabet, the history at the beginning. But here we are, the Trajan, which you have this page. I gave you this one. Let's just zoom out a little. It's just wonderful. So there isn't any alphabet in here that you haven't got. And it, black letter. It's just a wonderful book. And if you didn't have anything else, if you didn't have access to a calligraphy teacher, but you had this book and you had the pens, look how many hands there are. I just think it's wonderful. And here's sort of Romans done, so it looks like a versal. That's not done with a split pen, that's done with a pointed pen, and they've done the stroke twice. But here, here's our forms that we've been working on, and everything's in there. So let's have a go at this page, which is Roman capitals pointed nib. And let's just do a copycat alphabet from what's there. You can fold it in half and have it right beside you so you're really looking at it. So I really advise you to keep looking at a good example. So why I like this particular Sumi ink is it has a wide neck, and Higgins Eternal has a narrow neck. And with a wide neck, I can actually dip my pointed pen because pointed pens don't go into every ink pot. So that's why I like that one. So I've refilled that pot with other things because I buy my Sumi ink in a big tool. So it's the same diagrammatic that we've been used to, 4 by 3. Now when we start, and come down, no pressure on this stroke, and turn just the same, even though it's a pointed nib. And then the thick stroke on the second, it really lends itself. So if you're into this nib, you're going to like this. I could have done a better job on the point there. I might do a better job if I did another one, but I might not. If I stop talking, I might. Now, when you're doing the serif with a pointed nib, all you need to do is touch, and the ink fills in that curve. It's very clever. That's what they tell you anyway. And just work your way along. If you want to work smaller on 3, then you're going to have to sort of guess. I quite like working smaller. It just works for me, but just work your way through the alphabet with this pen. I think you'll like it. Pardon?
I love it already.
Good. So now I've messed that up, so that's now a P instead.
You just draw the serifs, right? Is what I'm hearing?
Pardon?
You're just drawing in the serifs? Like it's not a pen manipulation?
Yes. No, it's not pen manipulation. It's just a touch. So if you could just look up a second. Let's say I was doing an L. You're always better not to come up, but to come across with your L. Because when I go back in here to touch, I just get the most gorgeous serifs just by touching. It's not so much turning to get the thin stroke like we are with the split pen. You've already got the point, so you're halfway there with this pen. It works quite well with 3 squares high with the pointed pen, I think.
Yeah, the 4 is exact.
But what the problem is we're trying to go too quickly. If we slow everything down into slow motion, we get much better work. So if you only do 3 letters, but you do them well. Now you do need to turn the nib to do the serif at the top of the E, and this one, turn, just to get that serif correct.
Sort of turn it on its side, you mean?
Yeah, so what I'll zoom in on my pen so you can see what I'm doing. Let's go one more. So here's the top stroke of the E. I'm sliding in, going across 2, and I'm turning onto 1 time and back up. It needs to be ever so dainty. If I was doing a C turn, I would do just the same as we've been doing with the other pens, or the S turn. And the E, you can do it fast with a pen manipulation, or you can do it slow and draw it in. It depends on your confidence level. Do a whole bunch of fishhooks and see how you do. I don't know if you like this or not, but I quite like this. But I like you to get the hang of the serifs just touching at the cross point. Like this one, I'm drawing in a serif and I'm just touching. really a dainty touch. I've just written a word and I'd like you to look at it and I'd like you to tell me what's wrong. Don't hold back. I'll zoom in a bit. What's wrong with this word? Okay, so this was careless and too long, correct? I haven't done the serif here. It should have ended about here. This was carelessly done. I should have done this. But that's not what I was getting at.
I think the space between the R and the T. is
Correct.
uneven for the
That's what's
beginning.
wrong. We've basically got this unit of space. This is, remember when we were doing this and we made a spacing decision and we have to stick with it? Well, it's the same with this. I've made a spacing decision that I should have stuck with. So if I put my dot there, but see, T goes back in. So that, if I put the dot there, I should have started maybe there. And then it would have been, it would just look a bit more balanced. But all these exercises are for is to just start visualizing what's wrong with my work. Why doesn't it work? If I turned it upside down, it probably would have been more evident. Carry on doing the 3-letter words or the whole alphabet. That's what we're working on, right? Just go through. See, he does a really nice job on these serifs. But if you've got a nice light touch with the pointed pen, you're going to do well with this. If you're a bit of a heavy hand that likes black letter and all that, this might not be for you. But it's good for you.
Judi, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I cannot do a serif to save my soul, not one, none.
Is this Chris?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The other Chris.
Chris 2. You're both
I
equal. Well,
one, but I'll go with two. I was here first.
don't get too hung up with the serifs. If you're not ready for serifs, that's just fine. I would, next time you come to the class, if you can, I'll work with you on it so that you get to feel more confident. But it's just about pen control. Don't worry about it. I'll show you again with just right now. I'll show you again with a small nib. It's a slide across, slow down, turn, and back up. With the pointed nib that we're using right now, it's slow across and turn and back up. It's the same skill. With our new nib that we just are trying out, I think you've got a real skinny one, haven't you, Chris? So
I think
the
I've got a
same
number
again.
3.
Turn, go to the end, stop, but don't lift off, down and back up. Some people like to go up here and had another barb on there, which can look very nice. I'm just going to do it again, slow, slow, even slower, and cap it off. And then if I was doing a T across 3 boxes, same thing. And I'm drawing with one side of the pen. So this pen makes it easy. This pen, here's a great big ham-fisted one. Let's see if this works. This is a 3.0. So I have to turn the pen angle quite steep to get a thinner line. I can still turn onto one point to do, even with this great big thick thing, I can still do a serif. It's just daring to turn onto one time. That's what you're really doing. So here's the T. Go ahead, Chris.
I can almost do that one. It's like the ones at the bottom.
The ones at the bottom.
Yes.
Can you translate for me? I'm not understanding what she's saying.
You can do the ones that go on the bottom of the letter, Chris?
I can't do the ones at the bottom. I cannot.
Okay, well, here we go. Let's say we're doing an L. I'm doing it very big so you can see. Stop. And I'm sliding in. So that's a So we're coming along here, up and back down and pull in so that we're getting a bit of a spade there. That's a sort of a thorn. I'll do it with different tools. You can just see it.
Like the T, when you got to make that little trunk at the bottom with the T.
Okay, if I just stop there, let's make it this easy. Stop there, don't do anything. And I just pick it up and go up and back out a little and then back in a little. And now I can draw this one in and I can just round it there. I can draw this one in. So you can do it. It's just confidence. So here it is, what we're doing now. We're working with this pen. This is the pointed pen. 3 squares down. Same thing. 2 across, back up, back down. You can sort of see more clearly where I'm going with the pointed pen. And I'm just adding in those touches. It makes a really, really nice letter.
Okay,
What are you actually writing with right now, Chris?
I got out my pointed pen.
Okay. So get on it, girl. You can do it.
All right, I can do it. Thank you.
Slide in, slide in. Very soft, and Chris, very slow. This is where the other Chris sent me the most monumental piece of homework, which with her permission, I'd like to show you. She's got total control of pointed pen, so this was probably easier for her. So Chris, if we were going to do this, let's say we were going to do an E, which is the same thing. We just make sure we're touching that 2 across, turn. It's more like you're drawing really in a way when doing Romans. So if I didn't turn the pen, I could still do a serif here with just doing that. Now I'm going back to here to just touch there, just to give it a little wasting. So try that. Now I'm going to try an S with a pointed pen, see how I do. If you look at the exemplar that I've given you, you notice that their serifs are dragged to a real barb. Let's zoom in here. The barb, the strokes are very, like they've added that one too. But if you notice, everyone is just hairline. So they are definitely dragging those, and they are a little bit arced. So if I was doing the top, and they're doing a Betty, which is slightly curved like that, it does make it look nice. But this is, I think, it borders on please yourself here, just to get how you get there. The serifs are lengthened and close examination reveals them terminating in a small blob. The letters are spacious without any compression. Small blob? It's very small if you ask me.
Judy,
Yeah,
can you review the O? They give us a different O and Q where the thin part is at the very top and bottom, which sometimes you see on buildings.
yes. Well, if I look at this, this exemplar, it's still the same. It still should be diagonalizing, but they have got it. That's what you're saying is their thin stroke,
Yeah.
top and
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah.
It's just how you do it. So if this is my my four square, if I start, instead of starting at 11 o'clock, if I start at midnight and push here and lift off here and push here and lift on here, then I've got that same. I've done a terrible job there and there, but because I didn't do it carefully. But then it's not quite so elegant when I put the Q tail on it.
Right.
But it works. I mean, they've got a completely different concept on that. They do it at the end of the thickening.
Yes.
Right there. So it is slightly different. So, you know, every new interpretation of Romans lends a different nuance and different strokes. It's just basically what you like. I quite see their T goes like this and like this. So they've sort of got almost a thorn on the end,
Yeah.
which they can get away with.
They also
And-
talk about building up the letter, like.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, this. That's what they call building up. But if you want to, you could build it up and thicken it and do it again.
So this isn't a pressure and release like we normally do.
Yeah. So it's just interpreting. I don't want to get too pulled over with this. I just wanted to share it with you to see if you liked it. It's something you can use. But really, when it gets down to it, what we're really here for is to learn these forms and get them so into you that you'll never forget them. And you'll hate me forever for being an old naggy Nora, but I want you to go home feeling at least competent with the forms. So have you had enough on serifs, or do you want more talk about it?
If you're talking to me, I'm okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Almost a little bit like as long as they're consistent within your word, you can get away with it.
So, sorry, you have to face me.
Yeah, sorry, if the serifs are consistent within your word, like you.
When you mean they're so that they look alike?
Yeah, even if they don't look exactly like the exemplar.
Okay, but it's whatever you're doing, always do it. If you're heavy-handed and your serifs are fat, then make them all fat and it looks like it was deliberate. If one's thick and one's fat and one's straight and one's curvy, you're going to have a messy kind of line. So Dennis always talks about rhythm, right? So if you think in terms of looking at a white picket fence, there's the space and the rhythm between the letters. And if you're going to do an ornamentation, it can't take over. The basic letter form is still the beautiful thing to look at. The serifs in this case, this is really advanced stuff right here. Like I'm expecting nothing, you know, I'm just showing it to you. If you can't master this, it's just fine. I just thought that people might enjoy it, but don't get hung up with it. I do want you to do serifs, but I've given you a number of tools that might suit you better. Now you're happiest working with a C2 nib, which is a bit like, let's say the orange, I think is probably the closest to the C2 nib for width. So let's see how we do with this for serifs. And I can still get, look, a really sharp thorn on an orange nib parallel. So let's practice that. Let's go along the line, stopping and turning real slow. It is possible to get a beautiful serif. And the more I turn the pen angle almost to flat, the thinner crossbar I'll get. So if I have it down to the 45, I'm going to get a thick top, which is not attractive. So you can see the difference there of the different thicknesses. Why the first one looks so much better is because it's not too thick. I'm going to come and look at what you're doing, Lucy, just so that I can see if you're... Oh, so here we go. Lucy's having some trouble with turning, and everybody's having the same issue. So I'm pressing quite hard so that you can see the tines are fairly open.
Yeah.
So if I don't press, I'm going to get a skinny line like that, which in certain applications could be extremely nice. But we are doing this. So before we were going like this and back up, which we could do.
And you do it on the left, right? Because you're turning back?
Yeah, so I'm turning down.
Okay, so down.
If I went over to that side, I couldn't see what I was doing. So it's not that. It's definitely and down and back up. And this is the stroke that you had trouble with the double for the middle of the E.
It just bobbed.
So it gets, if it gets too big, it gets ugly. So the cheat's way of doing it is to get to here, stop, turn a quarter turn and back off.
Okay, so they line up.
So back, turn, and then off. And if you do it slightly bigger, that's how I developed that stroke for the bottom of the E, which is bigger and it's outside. This has to line up with this. So that has to be lining up. This one goes beyond, so that when you do the E, this is outside the box, as is technically this serif that you're going to add with just a tickle. So here we go again. Slide in, down, off, then back into here just to get it tied in. Stop, I'm still on the paper. I'm turning, I'm rocking onto one time. I'm putting that back in And now I'm going to do your favorite. If you stop, press to open the tines and lift off. And then this one, I can go in straight or I can go up to it. Now, this one you didn't have any trouble with, but you are actually rocking onto one tine there. It's rock and roll is my words for it. And here is the T, roll and finish. Straight down and draw it in. And rock onto the right and draw it in. I've got terrible straight lines here today because I'm.
Like it does make.
So pressing fairly hard to get that nice white spacing in there. Stop, pressure, pressure straight, and then turn. And then just tart it up at the end. It just looks so much better.
Yeah.
And then the curve serifs. I can sit here all day with the tines open, and then I'm turning, rock, back up.
Okay, yes.
And see how nice and tight that is.
Yes.
Now, when it's small, it's still as easy, but I am rocking onto one tine. And this one, I do it slightly differently. I'm adding, this is if there was an S there, I draw this one in because there's no way of getting that any other way. So here's the top of the S. Whoops. Then I come down and across. Oh, I'm doing a terrible S now. But just to show you, I'm doing that with the S at the end. Just however I've done that one, I'm sort of trying to make it match.
And you just play around with whatever edge.
Yeah, so you're rocking onto one tine. And that is very strong right there. So you can push quite hard to open that tine and then come back. This one you were having trouble with. I think you could do it.
Yeah, I hadn't realized how much you twist the pen.
Yeah, it's the rotating.
It's hard to see when it's all.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, it's hard to do.
Yeah, that too.
It's hard to do. But you can do it. There you go.
Great. I hope my head wasn't in the way.
That's fine.
It's growing on this fellow one.
I hope that you get to. I hope that you get to like this pen, and just remember that it does other alphabets as well beautifully. This is unsealed.
Lucy, I didn't like it at first.
Did we do last week letters that you can add tails to?
Remember doing that?
Okay.
Oh, I just did an O. That's my first one today. My first one today.
I'll tell you, it's a triumph to get the O. It's hard.
Trying to hope it either square or lopsided.
The clue is to do practice without the wheels, just doing C's like this. Just keep doing this. Have them apart and then suddenly put them together. And then you'll start to get beautiful. And I'm not using the boxes at all. And you're an artist, you won't need to either. You know when it's a good form and when it isn't. Oh, now I wanted to show you just, there are a few and very few things that you can do to Romans to make it more fun. But you can do this on the R. On the R. If you're doing a title on a poster, the A lends it to it because it has a diagonal stroke. Some people will do this to a T, but that's really more italic. It's not really Romans, but if you're designing a header on a program or something, that would be okay. The round letters you can't do anything with. The H I wouldn't mess with. The K you can do that with, of course, because it has a diagonal stroke, just like the R. But again, it's like any, what do you call it? Flourishing. Pick where you do it. It would mostly be the initial letter, and then you would tuck the rest of your work into probably that size. But it really.
Judi, I noticed that if anyone wants to see it, Masterpiece Theater, they do the R, done it in the middle of the word, and it looks effective.
I'm sorry,
The PBS show.
I'm not understanding what she's saying.
I'll show you.
Hang on, Chris, somebody's going to
I'm
interpret.
just going to look it up. It's Masterpiece Theatre. They have the R very.
Yes, Masterpiece Theatre is definitely Romans.
Yeah. And they do that beautiful R right in the middle of the
And that's
word.
what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try and find it.
So most of them I wouldn't mess with and don't ornament them. I mean, why do you need to? What makes Romans beautiful is getting it beautifully matched both for height, weight, and spacing. So if you get the letter perfect and you get the spacing, using the dot system when you're practicing.
She was talking about that R in the middle of.
So here's the Masterpiece Theatre that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Technically, that R crowds the P, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
But this is definitely this is Trajan, like I've been teaching you, without the serifs on the top of the M. Notice that the M is slightly flared out. In terms of layout, this is done with type. This is done on a computer. And so they don't have the facility to make a space between the M and the A. To me, it needs just a tiny bit more. See, this is beautifully spaced. This is a little crowded because it's been done on a computer. And so I would say this M could do with going to the left a little, but it still reads beautifully, doesn't it?
I like the broken line underneath too.
The broken line underneath is very elegant.
Very simple thing.
There's a lovely series on PBS about a white guy working in India during the times of the Raj. Oh, what's it called? Something House.
I don't know. I've watched The Jewel in the Crown, but
No, I'll try to remember it for next week, but it's got beautiful Romans at the beginning. But it's worth looking at that, but interesting how kerning makes such a difference when you pull it sideways. Thank you. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. J you could muck around with if you were saying if this was King and then the next one was James, you could bring the J right down and then carry on with your letters small. L, M, N, O, P, U, R, S. And then Betty's Y, she does, when she's doing fun Romans, she goes off like this and does a whoopsie doodle up in there. Are we recording again?
yeah.
Mm.
Recording.
Okay.
Pretty sure that says recording.
Okay. I'd like you to go with now your pen of choice. I have thrown a lot of different things at you, but your pen of choice. Go to a new part of the page if you can, and work at doing a word. Because the thing that we haven't perfected yet is this rhythmic spacing. Like we were just looking, it was a perfect timing to look at that Masterpiece Theatre thing, because we're all getting a bit tired now. But what shall we say for homework? Would you like to do a single word like masterpiece or something like that? Bring it back next time and have serifs on it and have it spaced.
Can you really short word? I'm gonna have to.
It can be a very short word like Lucy.
Just like your own name.
Yes, write your own name. There you go.
Yeah, that's always. that makes much
Or your
sense.
last name, because then you can get to use Q. It's my favorite letter.
Well, all your names, how about all of them?
I need more paper. Yeah.
Okay, practice now. Just have a run at now. I'm going to do Lucy.
I am loving that little stop, twist, and flick off, like. In which nib? Does the homework need a specific nib? Are we doing the split nib or?
No, this is free choice. I personally only ever like to use this one, but you can do whatever you like. But you can do it excellently well. It's the thinking about the spacing without going crazy.
Do you come in with a serif, even if you're going back to draw them in better?
Okay,
afterwards?
entry, exit.
Like, is it wrong to skip the entry because it throws you off?
Okay, no, if you want to do this and this, there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, that's easy.
And remember the first day on one time, we did this and this
Yeah.
and this and this. You have what you need. If you want to go the easy route, why not do this? But the temptation is to get a bit too big if you do it like that. So rein it in, and by all means do that. So now let's stop. Now let's do Lucy again.
Remember how Dennis's serifs were just like little slashes?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Keep going. You're not ready for perfectionism. We're just learning the forms. Don't beat yourself up. Just keep trying. Remember that the crossbar is always push fairly hard on that and have it quite strong.
On the L.
On a crossbar like A and H. Caroline's nickname is Kazzy with 2 Z's. Try that. Well,
I don't like Z's anymore.
2 letters together in Romans actually works because you're so strict with the form. If you do them, you'll find that you like it because you've got space between. Where double letters get hard is when they're close together. So you will see here on this C, I've done the bottom tail as well. As long as it's dead in line with the one above, you can do it. But it's a bit difficult. But if you stop exactly above it to do that one, then you can do that one. But it's tricky without the training wheels. And Chris Vanier, if you're having any trouble with this and you have a window or a light pad, just take out your exemplar and just trace it with a pencil. Anything to get the forms into your head.
Okay.
And this handout here, this Lorraine's, I'd like you to trace this a few times. When with either with the split nib or with the pointed pen. Try this with a pointed pen. It's a fun alphabet, especially with Romans. Look at this gorgeous A at the bottom. Oh. Oh, I'm tired. It's going well though. I didn't expect this level of success with only 4 lessons, and this is only 3 lessons, so you're doing really well. Even though you think it's not where you want to be, you're making very quick progress. Chris number 1, or Chris Simpson Links, may I have your permission to show your homework?
Sure.
Thank you very much. In a minute, Kazzy will come and just release it because it almost brought me to tears that somebody could go home and do homework on Romans, which is the hardest of hands, and come out with a piece of work like that. So
Thank you.
now, please, it would be great.
Just finish my word.
So one of the points of me showing you this is to put shame on you because I didn't get any homework from anybody else.
I've got some. I just didn't-
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Pardon me. No, I'm just teasing.
Hang on, I gotta get
I'd
rid
like
of
to
all
go
this- I gotta
be
get
able
rid of
to
all this
zoom into
stuff
it,
here.
please.
Hang on. Write the meeting controls, make this a bit bigger. God, there's so much to do when you.
Well, if you can't do it, nobody can, because we certainly couldn't.
Trying to make this big. Oh, I know. I can sort of pull it out from the side here. There we go.
There we go.
Okay,
Keep
those-
going. Keep going. I don't want to see the whole page. Just
Well, I don't know how to get to half the page on this, I'm afraid. There you go. That's the best I can do. I fiddled and fiddled with it and I couldn't get it.
isn't that a nice piece of work?
Go to the other one too. Anyway,
The words too, malarkey.
yeah, doesn't it look good?
Bamboozled. But that's a very nice piece of work. But what she has is she has a methodical mathematical mind. And what she's got there is a rhythm. Can you see it? It's just so nice. I'm pleased.
This is where the slideshow's better because you can see like the whole thing in the
Yeah,
slideshow,
right.
whereas on this.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty good, like, you can-
But
Can you go to her words? The bamboozle.
Yeah, I'll go back. I just wanted to show both pieces. There we go.
Yeah.
Spacing is crap in some places.
What did you say?
The spacing is crap in some places. I don't feel
But
like
that's the whole point of doing this, is that you step back. If you were painting a portrait and you
Yeah.
only stayed up close, you would have a bad likeness. But if you step away from the work and look at it,
yeah.
or come back to it, and you can see, oh, my spacing is a little bit off, you've learned something right there. Poppycock, I'd say.
That looks beautiful.
Very nice.
Thank you.
I'm pleased that that it's going to work for you. And some people will finish this course and think, nah, I'm never going to use this again. But I promise you, it'll help you with your pen manipulations in everything else that you do.
Yeah.
And you'll dare to put serifs when you're doing other stuff now. And you've got now the information on how to do it. So I think we're going to call it a day now, and
That one.
and do practice. And if you want to send it to me, that's fine. I won't. If you like, you can send me the work, and I won't say whose work it is, and when we can just look at it, because we, like the Galleria, sometimes there's a very poorly arranged piece in the Galleria, and everybody might go away thinking, I'm talking about the end of the guild meeting, might think, well, I'll never do that, I'll never put that there or that there. So from the bad piece you're learning, as well as from the wonderful piece that you think, oh, I'll never be able to achieve that.
Right.
But looking at stuff is what helps us. So thank you for coming today, and thank you for logging on, and keep your pen wet.
And we can offer Zoom next week if people.
We'll Zoom next week.
We just didn't offer it in the beginning because nobody wanted it.
No, but
Oh, coming.
I didn't catch a ferry at 11, so I
I can Zoom next.
I don't mind small classes. It works either way. So thank you and goodbye.
Okay.